from Descartes, I think, therefore I am.
Well, although I think, therefore I am, is the line on which Descartes rose to stardom, the truth of the matter is it's not what he actually wrote. So I can't tell you how warmly I welcome this opportunity of explaining the correct version, if only for poor Rini's sake. Rini being, as you know, the unfortunate Christian name of this eminent 17th century philosopher, and even though the French pronounce it René, it was still one hell of a liability for a chap in those rough times. And the other liability that poor Descartes laboured under was he had this real drag of a wife. Now, although Madame Descartes brought a bit of lolly to the match, the truth is that she was very bourgeois, several years older, and inclined to be bossy. So that every time Descartes sat down to dream up a crystalline aphorism or an eternal verity, in she'd come with her curlers in and try and dust the ornaments. Or she'd say, "I'm sorry, I need this room for a social occasion. You'll just have to take your philosophy set out into the shed." In fact, it's hard to think of a way in which she wasn't a dead loss to an aspiring philosopher, because even where their more intimate relationships were concerned, every time he tried to make love to her, her only response was the phrase which George Gershwin was later to make use of: "Descartes, take that away from me." So under such miserable working conditions, you may wonder, how did Descartes manage to become number one on among the philosophy chart toppers? Well, as I've indicated, it was all due to the widespread misunderstanding about the line, "I think, therefore I am." And to trace the origin of that, I must take you back through the magic of radio to the big New Year's Eve party that Madame Descartes gave for the local gentry to celebrate the advent of 1636. Because what she decided, you see, was that it wouldn't be a formal affair. What they'd have would be a buffet. That, as you know, is a French word meaning we've got more people than we've got chairs. And what's more, as it was to be a very late do, with the guests not arriving till around 11 o'clock, Madame ran up an enormous batch of that French version of bacon and egg flan they call quiche. Madame Descartes said to Rini, she said, "I'll put all the quiche out on the sideboard, but what I don't want is people helping themselves all through the evening and treading a whole lot of crumbs into the aubusson. So I am relying on you to see that nobody starts digging in till an hour after we've seen the new year in, when they can all take plates and eat properly, you see." So there you have the situation. The founder of the Cartesian school of philosophy relegated to the position of securicor for bacon and egg flan. Well, as he said to Father Dinet, a Jesuit priest who was about his only friend at that time, as he said to him, "This is not really doing my career any good at all. Being stationed at the sideboard till 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll be a limp rag tomorrow, and that'll be another day with no philosophy done." So the good father said, "Well, look, Reen," he said, "why don't you use this as working time? Take a pen and a paper serviette, and while you're sitting here, just ad-lib a few lofty thoughts, and and jot them down. And Descartes said, that is not a bad idea. Give us a lend of your quill. So for the next hour or so, there by the sideboard, the two friends sat, and Descartes was just scribbling out a few zingers about corporeal rationality and adventitious volition, when suddenly he looked up, and to his horror, he saw Father Dinet had absent-mindedly helped himself to a quiche and was quietly munching it. Well, Descartes was just about to say, hey, watch it, they're not supposed to be eaten yet, when he noticed something else. There, not 2 meters away, and within earshot, stood his wife. So thinking very fast, he took another paper serviette and wrote the message down on it, and then he furtively shoved the serviette under Father Dinet's nose. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the point where this 300-year-old misunderstanding originated. Because that line, which Father Dinet later published to the world as "I think, therefore I am," what it in fact referred to was the time ban on the bacon and egg flans. You see, what Descartes actually wrote was, "I think there for 1 a.m."
Well, ladies and gentlemen, by your vote, Dennis Norden wins the story, and he and Anne Scott James also win the entire contest, and that brings to an end this edition of My Word.